What's up? What's up? What's up, family? And welcome to another episode of Apostolic Insight. Now, I know I'm catching you on a different day. You're accustomed to being here on Tuesday night, but yesterday I had some things come up, and I'll be talking about that a little bit more later. But what I had to share was so important. I said, look, let me go ahead and get this out. Whether or not our normal crew can be here with us or not, I'll make sure I get it in their hands. And I wanted to get this down for you. All right. So If you are here and you're able to join us and you're watching us live, I want you to jump in the chat and just let me know you're here. Shout me out. Let me see it in the chat so I know you're with us. I know you're watching and I know you're on. All right, listen, we are about to dive into shift number 7 of the 7 shifts. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, I am making a bold claim. I'm making a bold claim, and I'm not making this claim just to be polarizing. I'm not making this claim just because I want to say something outlandish. I am making this claim because I get to see it in action every single day. And I am someone who has been close enough to it over the last 20 years to be able to read the trends. And so I am simply trying to operate, as the word says, like the sons of Issachar, who can discern the signs of the times. And I'm going to tell you, and here's what I'm going to tell you from the beginning, that denominations are dying. Denominations are dying. And I want to be clear. I do not have an issue with denominations. I am a son of denominations. I work very closely with 2 of the most prominent African-American denominations here in America. And so I am not rooting for their demise. As a matter of fact, I'm rooting that they make a comeback. But tonight, I want to have the conversation. I want to say out loud the thing that many of us have been saying in private, the thing that many of us have been talking about in private. I want to say it out loud. And the reality is this, is that the denominational system is fading. The denominational system is fading. And one of the things that we're going to see rise up in the future, one of the things that is coming on is that we're going to see the rise of apostolic networks, right? That are not built on paperwork. They're not built on politics. They're not built on bureaucracy. They're going to be based on relationships. And we're going to dive into that tonight. All right. So do me a quick favor, wherever you're watching from, I want you to just go ahead and click share. Share this with somebody you know need to receive it. If you're on Facebook, share it there. If you're on YouTube, take this link and text it to your team, text it to your people, text it to somebody. Even if they cannot watch it right now, it'll be available for them to come back and watch it live a little bit later. But I want to begin to dive into some of this. All right. As I said before, we're getting ready to see a shift, and we're already seeing a shift where we're going from denominations to relational networks. Is that we're going to go from being gathered around theology and doctrine only to being gathered around theology and doctrine that is undergirded by real intimate relationship. And we're going to talk about that because this is so important. I believe that whenever God, one strategy runs its course, whenever one strategy comes to the end of its usefulness and of its peak periods, God begins to raise up something else. All right. Now, do I think that denominations are about to disappear completely in the next 5 to 10 years? Absolutely not. But I believe what you're going to see is we're going to see a decline and continue to see a decline of denominations, and we're going to continue to see a rise of apostolic or relational networks. And I think it's going to be simultaneous. I think even some denominations are going to begin internally, while they will still operate under the banner of a denomination. They're going to begin to shift their operations to more of a relational network. And we're going to talk about what that looks like. But I want to dive into this tonight. All right. As I get into it, I want you to do me a favor. Let me know in the chat if you have grown up in a denomination. If you grew up in a denomination, you've been around a denomination, let me know in the chat so that I can make sure that I'm talking to the right person, because this is shift number 7 of our 7 shifts that are hitting the Black church. All right. So let's first talk about why denominations are declining. Let's talk about why we're seeing decline in some denominations. All right. Number 1, we are seeing that many denominations are operating with the strategy and a structure for a past era. And so as a result, one of the things that happens is that they are over-structured, and which sometimes hinders their ability to be as spirit-led as they once were. And so now, because of the red tape and because of the structure, and a lot of times when denominations go through growth, they add complexity and structure. And so when they begin to shrink, they still have that complexity, but it is not as efficient. So that's one of the reasons that I believe we are seeing denominations begin to decline, is that they are overstructured. There are too many layers, and there's too many layers between the local church and the heart of the national organization. All right. Number two, another thing is the layers of politics and red tape that slow down decision making. You know, sometimes denominations get to a point where they cannot make decisions quickly. They cannot move on decisions fast enough. And as a result, it is hard to maintain momentum. It is hard to keep a rhythm. It is hard to have a flow for where God wants them to go. And so there's so much red tape. There's so many things they have to go through. And we've seen this play out very publicly over the last couple of years. We've seen several denominations go through very public red tape and bureaucracy trying to move things forward, but the red tape got in the way. All right. So that's another thing. Number three, and I think this is a really, really big one, the financial obligations with little to no return for local churches. Now, this is one that I have heard over and over firsthand. Many of the pastors who come into our program come to us from denominations, come to us from other groups. Although that is not what we do, we are not trying to replace denominations. We catch them in the midst of that experience. And one of the frustrations we hear over and over again is that they still expect me to give the same, while the resources and the support that they give is much less. You know, today, especially in the average Black church, if you talk to the average Black pastor and they talk about planting a church and you say, hey, is the denomination providing any support? Is the denomination helping you in any way? Is the denomination doing this? And the answer is always no, 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 no. And so what's happening is that now denominations still need people to give. All right. So you've got the local association still needs people to give. The state still needs people to give. The national convention still needs people to give. And then not only do we need you to give, but when we have gatherings, we want you to come. So we want you to come to the convention, get a hotel, get a flight, pay for food, bring your people. We want you to do all these different things. And in large part, when we do these things, we are either just having church or we're getting resources that are not hitting the mark with where we really are. And so what's happening is that we've got mostly small churches as it is. Most of our churches in the African-American context are 70 people or less. So they're small as it is. And we're asking them to give, which in many cases they can't. And when they can't give, they often stop participating. And when they stop participating, they stop supporting the national. And when they stop supporting the big organization, things begin to fall down. Come on, Pastor Pierce. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to tell the truth today. All right. And so what's happening is you've got to give, but it's not clear what you get. It's not clear what you get. And so I know that there is always a space where we give, right? And we're not even going to go into the subculture whereby many pastors and leaders are tithing to their own pastors. And so you've got all these different dynamics going every which way. And so as a result, denominations are declining. People, whenever there's a financial obligation without any kind of reciprocity, you begin to look at that. It's just like a subscription service. If you go to your account and you see a subscription come out and you're like, man, I ain't even using that. I ain't even getting nothing from that. One of the first things you want to go and do is cancel it. Right. And so we've got to be aware that the same thing is happening to the church. Right. And here's the fourth thing that I think is important. Many young leaders are starting to see denominations as disconnected from the real needs of the community and the local pastor. There's a disconnection between the two. There's a disconnection. Many young leaders are seeing our larger denominations as disconnected, right? Because, just a couple of things, is that, even when we get together for our different gatherings, if you're not talking about social media, if you're not talking about digital ministry, if you're not talking about artificial intelligence, if you're not talking about these things in order to help meet pastors right where they are, we're missing it. And a part of that disconnect is that although most denominations want young leaders, they still are often led by leaders who are in a different season and often disconnected from the current generation. And I believe it's me. I believe that what's happening in the present has always got to help guide where we're going in the future. I really do. I believe that in our denominations, we have got to be platforming and building up and listening to young leaders. Not to say they've got to have the largest voice in the room, but they've got to be at the table. They've got to be at the table, because if we lose the present, we lose the future. If we keep being run and led and only platforming leaders who are 60 and above, there's going to always be a disconnect between them and the leaders who are 40 and below, right? And then you're going to have this generation that's kind of in the middle, that's almost like this lost generation, which is where I feel sometimes, who's between 40 and 60. And I'm not the young kid and I'm not the senior statesman, but I'm somewhere in between. And if we don't start bringing more of those voices to the table and letting them share with us where we need to be going next, we'll miss it. And so this is one of the things that is causing denominations to decline. All right. So I want you to answer a question for me really quickly in the chat. What's one frustration you've seen or heard about how denominations operate today? All right. And you don't need to call a specific denomination or whatever it is. Just in the chat, tell me what's one frustration that you yourself have seen or you have heard with being a part of a denomination. Let me know. I'm looking at you here on YouTube. I'm trying to track you on Facebook as well. Let me know in the chat. What have you seen and heard? And tell me what's been a frustration that you have gone through or you've heard about that you know is a big deal right now for denominations. Let me know in the chat. Let me know. I want to hear it from you. All right. Let's keep going. I want to go to number 2. While you're doing that, absolutely, we've got to shift the paradigm. We need new wineskins. We've got to do it. If we don't do it, we're going to remain stuck, and we're going to forfeit another generation. If we don't take the next step, we're going to forfeit another generation, and we cannot afford to do that. All right. So let me know in the chat, what have you seen? All right. So let's go into this. What are the models? What are the biblical models for how we could set this up? All right. And this is important, right? I'm not one of those people who harps on and who stands on this mindset that if we've never seen it in the word, it cannot exist in our lives, because that's just impractical, right? The things we build in the present are our best attempt to contextualize what we see in the word, right? That's why we use live stream, right? We can't say because live streaming isn't in the Bible that we shouldn't be using it. Well, the reality is, if they had it, they would have used it. You telling me Paul wouldn't have live streamed? You telling me Jesus wouldn't have live streamed? Right? So I think there's a difference there. But one of the things that we've got to do, though, is that we've got to stay closely connected to the heart behind what we see in Scripture. Let's talk about some of the biblical relationships. Number 1, look at the Acts church. The Acts church did not consider itself a place that had a denominational headquarters. Now, there was a central community in Jerusalem because of where so much of the activity took off. But they always had a goal to spread and to go further. So it was meant to be relational and spirit-led, right? Even if you look at the clusters of churches that Paul helped to plant, he had hubs, right? We read and we see Ephesians, but there were other offshoots to the church at Ephesus. There were other things, and they weren't headquartered in such a way that this one group had to control it. Their goal was to raise up, send out, and empower. They wanted to empower them to lead. Look at Paul's apostolic journey. When he goes out, the networks are bound by relationship, not bylaws. And trust me, I understand why we need bylaws in the year of our Lord, 2025. And please, if you don't have none, have some. Right? But the grounding factor was the relationship and the move of the Spirit. They were all committed to the same move of the Spirit happening in the kingdom. And it was leadership that was rooted in covenant, not bureaucracy. In covenant. It was rooted in the fact that we were committed to walking in ministry together. We were committed to moving forward together in the same thing. All right. And so we've got to understand that the kingdom has always moved through apostolic fathers and mothers and relational bonds. right? It always has. Paperwork didn't guide the early church. It was kingdom. And again, hear me saying, I'm not saying we don't need those things. I'm saying those things should not be primary. We live in an era where people are joining denominations for what they could get out of it, not for who they can walk with. And then we get shocked when people don't participate and they don't connect and they don't walk together. We miss out because we're reordering some of the things that God has called us into. All right. And so look at this. Here were some of the things y'all said were issues, right? People not being willing to adapt to change. That's a big one. In denominations, we can really struggle with that thing, adapting to change. Another one, being religious and not biblical or relevant. That's good. Like, we missed that. We've got to shift in that. We've got to shift in that mindset. And we've got to make sure we're grabbing a hold of what the Lord is really trying to do in the church and where he wants us to go. All right. So answer this question for me. When you read the book of Acts, does it sound more like a denomination or more like a family? Which of the two do you hear? Do you hear denomination or do you hear family? All right. What do you hear? Do you hear denomination or do you hear relationship? What do you hear? Somebody said denominations are not willing to accept the changing of the guard. Yes. In denominations, we provide a lot of times the perfect platform for people to hold on too long. We provide the perfect platform for people to hold on too long. We do. I agree with that. All right, let's keep going as you're putting that in the chat. Do you hear denomination or family when you read the book of Acts? All right. So why are relational networks going to rise up? Let me show you why. Here is a part of why relational networks are going to rise up. All right. Number one, there is a growing hunger for authentic covering. There's a growing hunger for authentic covering. Let's talk about this. All right. So, there are different models depending on the stream you're in. I know we've got people who are in the Baptist church. We've got people who are in the Kojic church. We've got people who are apostolic and prophetic. We've got people who are charismatic, non-denominational. We've got all kind of people represented here in our space. All right. So since we've got all kind of people here represented in our space, we all kind of use a different language, right? In some circles, I grew up in a Baptist circle. I grew up in every pastor needs a pastor. That's the language we used. And then as I started to connect with more apostolic and prophetic circles, I would start to hear more of this term covering. And so I went kind of on this journey to kind of understand it too, right? And I think it means something different for everybody. But I'm going to give you what I mean when I think about it. When I think about covering, I'm thinking about somebody who goes beyond being my leader on paper and steps into really knowing who I am, who I'm called to be, and helping me to battle through both the natural and spiritual warfare to get there. All right. And so when I think about covering that way, I think there are more and more people who have a hunger for covering. They are hungry for it. They are hungry to be covered. They are hungry to have somebody who really knows them. Right? Can we have a conversation? Let's talk about this, because I struggled with this for a long time. I see more and more people who are hungry for spiritual leadership that calls them before they have to be called. Come on, man. We stirring it up a little bit today. I know it. But we got to talk about this, because if we don't talk about it, we can't fix it. All right. I think we have had decades of spiritual relationships that were one-sided, where we always give up and we sew up and we connect up and we call up and we reach out up. And what I'm seeing is a growing hunger for people who are saying, it would be great to know that the person who is covering me from time to time takes the initiative and to just reach out to me. I'm a father, and I'm not the most let's sit on the phone and chit chat person in the world. But periodically, it hits my mind. Let me call my child. Let me call and talk to my child. And I think, unfortunately, we've had a culture where we, in the spiritual realm, we have taken on more children than we can actually father. We've taken on more children than we can parent. And what it has done, it has cheapened the relationship to such a degree that we call people sons and daughters without actually doing the work of being mothers and fathers. And so we're not calling our children. We're not checking on them. We don't know the names of their children. We don't know their spouses. We don't know what's going on in their lives. And because we miss those things, we allow the enemy to come in and create this disconnect. And even if it's not the enemy, we just allow space to grow between, where it's hard for us to give healthy correction because we really don't even know the situation. We don't know. So one of the things, let me just tell you, and again, we are at this point, we are not a network or denomination, but I will admit that there are qualities of it in our programs. Here's why. Because one of the things that I want to do when I talk to one of our pastors, when I know I got a call with one of our pastors, all right, and I say to my client services director, I say, hey, call this pastor, get a meeting scheduled, and tell them I want to talk with them about this. And she calls them and she's going to get that meeting on the books, right? Or when a pastor says they want to talk with me and I see them on my schedule, I know we're going to be meeting. One of the things that I do is that I watch their service for at least their sermon for at least the last week if they're live streaming, maybe 2 or 3 weeks back. I go through the notes of when the last time I talked to them and the questions I asked. I go and I review the transcript from the meeting when we first met so I can see where they were when we first talked, and I can go in and look at where they are now so that when we get on the call, I've got enough information to really be helpful to them. And then even beyond just the church stuff, going back and saying, okay, look, where can I encourage them today? Right? What are they doing? What are they saying? What's something we talked about? What's something they asked for? Right? Let me remind myself, who is their spouse? What's something they shared with me the last time we talked? Right? Who are their kids? Right? It's understanding who they are as people so that we can come alongside of them. And all I'm saying is there's a growing hunger where people want covering, they want mentorship, and they want family. Man, I don't want to see you twice a year. What's up, Doc? How you doing, Doc? Man, Doc, how's it going, Doc? It's tough out here, and Doc. I don't want that. I don't want it. I don't need it. It's not helping me. It's not helping me. I need real support where I'm at. I need to know how to not go and punch this deacon who keeps disrespecting me in these meetings. That's what I need to know. And I need you to understand the context and the situation. I had a pastor I had that exact conversation with about a month ago. And bro was at his limit, right? And we just talking, matter of fact, 2 of them. And we were just talking and he was going through. And I was like, yeah, bro, that's crazy. And I'm just sitting there listening. He's just like, man, and this and that and the other. I'm like, so what's going on with this? And this person, and why are they doing that? Right. And I'm just asking questions, just listen. And after they got it all out, I said, all right. I said, here's what we're going to do. Here's what I want to encourage you to do. Here's your next 30 days. I want you to do this, this, and this. I said, if you do this for the next 30 days, let's talk again. I believe God will give you the answer you need. Yeah, I said, if you don't get clear, let's come back. Let's talk again. Let's run it again. Right. But in order to do that, leadership has to be reachable. It has to be family. It has to go beyond something that's on paper. It has to go beyond what I'm giving. It has to go beyond what I'm sowing. It has to go beyond. Right. And it has to, and I'm not saying those things shouldn't be included. They should and they could. But I'm saying it has to go beyond that. You know, here's another thing. Another reason that you're going to see apostolic and relational networks rise is leaders want alignment with vision and not just a denominational brand. They want to be aligned with vision. Like you need to be in a community with people who are thinking and headed where you're headed. One of the frustrating things about denominations is that you've got a lot of people who are stuck and they're comfortable staying stuck. They're there and they're comfortable being there. They're not thinking about moving forward. They're not thinking about the next step. They're not thinking about doing more. They're not thinking about any of that stuff. And so we need more alignment. Another thing is that networks are going to be built on shared values and vision instead of just order and control. Do we believe the same things? Yes. But are we going in the same direction? Like if I'm trying to get better at doing online ministry and you think live stream is the devil, like, man, we're going to be disconnected. Right? And here's another thing we're going to see, and I'm going to move on from this point, is that these relational networks are going to be more flexible and scalable structures. And so what's going to happen is these, and I'll say this to all the time, even if you lead a small church, all right? Even if you lead a small church or an intimate church, a church less than 100 people, I want you to understand that your size can be your advantage. Your size can be your advantage. Same is going to be true for relational networks. Relational networks are going to be able to move at a speed that others cannot. And it's going to be a huge advantage, but you got to take advantage of it. All right. All right. So here's my question. If you had to choose between connected to a title and a tribe, which one would you choose? What would you choose? A title or a tribe? Which one would you choose? All right. I want to know. What would you choose? All right. So let me go back and look at some of your responses while you're asking that. If you got to choose between a title and a tribe, which one would you choose? Why? Why would it make a difference? Which one really fuels you more as a leader? All right. So look at this. So yes, somebody said, yes, we had too much one-sidedness. Absolutely. We've had too much one-sidedness in the kingdom. And it says, look, we feel abandoned in the midst of the process. Absolutely. Been there, done that. I went through a whole season. Some of it was by choice, but I went through a long season where I was completely uncovered. And it was a difficult season. It was a difficult season. All right. Look at this. Leaders without relationship. Well, here, let me see if I can show this. Leaders without relationship, it can cause jealousy. That's good. Like, it really can. And sometimes we miss it. We got to hold on to that. All right. We got to hold on to that. All right. Look at that. Somebody said, Pastor Joe, yes, absolutely. Thank you. Glad this has been a blessing. The culture to celebrate down is not cultivated. That's right. Like, we don't do a good enough job of celebrating those under us. And we've got to do that. Man, if you're ever in a position where you receive honor, you have got to be one of the biggest cheerleaders in the world. Because if not, man, things quickly can shift to where they become one-sided and they feel like they're more about you than anything else. All right. We got to have relationship. Absolutely, Pastor Pierce. We got to have relationship where we are uplifting one another. We got to do it. We got to make sure that it's two-sided. I'll never forget, man, when the Lord sent Pastor Michael Exum into our lives before he passed away. Man, it was one of the greatest blessings ever to our life. And he didn't talk. He understood systems, but that's not what he taught us. He did not talk to me about technology. As a matter of fact, he would constantly be pushing me in those things, telling me, hey, look, I want you to go forward in this. I want you to press out in this. I want you to take the next step in this. I want you to move into what God is doing in this. And he would push me out. But the areas where he was in my life, man, he showed up. He showed up in making sure I was the man of God I needed to be. He showed up and he made sure I was the husband and father I needed to be, that I was the leader I needed to be, because he knew the other stuff, the strategy, he knew I could figure that stuff out. But man, he was always there. And for years after he passed, I kept a voicemail on my phone from him. He had called me one day and I missed his call. And he said, I just want to remind you, Henry, that you are a gift to the body of Christ. Because I was in a season where I was struggling to figure it out. And I was struggling to figure out how I fit. I didn't feel black enough for the black church, and I was too black for the white church. I wasn't a hooper, and but I was a teacher who would get a little loud, right? And I felt so disconnected, and I felt called to the local church, but I didn't want to be tied down. I wanted to be able to move around and just, all this other stuff. And I was struggling, and he came into my life and he helped to bring clarity. And he helped me to see what I needed. All right. Look at this. Look at what Janice says. I like this. She says a lot of older pastors are not connected and can't offer advice because they are struggling themselves and too proud to say they aren't equipped to be a covering or share whatever knowledge they do. My goodness. That's a whole word. That's a whole word. It is very true. It is very true. I heard a denominational leader say this. He said, if the local churches are struggling, the association going to struggle. If the association struggle, the state convention is going to struggle. If the state convention can struggle, the national going to struggle. And it all comes down to the local church. He was like, so if we struggling down here, we'll have no energy for all these other things, especially if they're not pouring back into us. And that's why we're seeing engagement drop. That's why we're seeing engagement drop. Love that. All right. So everybody says, look, we want a tribe. It's a tribe, right? We got to have a tribe. That's what we want. It's the tribe. It's not that other stuff. We will all choose the tribe. We want the accountability of what we're called to and what we're stepping into. All right. So we've got to make sure that we have that. All right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going with this. All right. So what are going to be some of the benefits of the relational network, right? And again, I told some of y'all, God has been dealing with us about this, and we do not currently operate as a denominational or as a relational network, but there is a component that I do believe is coming. And so I believe God is working with us on it. He's dealing with us about it, and I believe it's on the way. All right. But let's talk about what some of the benefits I believe are going to be. Number one, shared resource and collective impact. You know, that's one of the things that I think is important, is that we've got to do a better job of sharing our resources. We've got to do a better job of sharing resources and relevant resources, not just stuff that, you know, we want people to have, but we've always had. We've got to make sure what we're sharing is relevant to the people we're sharing it to. All right. Number two, another thing is we're going to see authentic mentorship. Is we've got to get mentorship from people who have walked or are walking on the path. Like, that's what we want. And even where mentorship is, I think we've got to make sure that we're choosing mentors that are right for us. I think that's what you're going to see. You know, I think in relational networks, instead of having everybody point to one person, you're going to have teams that sit at the top so that you can go to the leader that is most appropriate for where you are in the journey. If you got 50 people, you don't necessarily need a mentor that got 1,000 people. You need a mentor that got 150. You need a mentor that had to grow their church from 50 to 100 and did it. That's what you need. That's what you need. All right. And here's another thing you're going to see is you're going to see collaboration instead of competition in relational networks. In relational networks, you're going to see people realize that even if there are 3 of us in the same city, we can help each other run the same play and we all grow. That you growing is not going to hinder me from growing, because there are so many people in this city who need Jesus that if we go get them, we can fill up all our churches and still wouldn't have enough room. And so it's going to be collaboration instead of competition. Is that you're going to stop being in competition with each other. And as a result, y'all going to start doing stuff together. Y'all gonna drop your pride in the future. That's what's gonna happen. People are gonna drop their pride, and instead of, you know, saying, "Oh, look, I'm gonna do this one event by myself," 3 or 4 of y'all gonna get together and do the event, and every year rotate who church host it, and say, "Look, let's go get these people." Right? I've been a part of 2 events like that this year, where multiple churches came together, and all the data we collected, we shared it. And we said, look, you follow up with them. I'm going to follow up with them. Whoever they choose, we don't care as long as they in the kingdom. And guess what? Both churches win. That's what's going to happen. Collaboration is going to replace competition. And then the other thing that's going to happen, again, a huge benefit is going to be kingdom agility, faster innovation and mobilization. You know, one of the things that we can do and that we do right now as a coaching program is that when one of our pastors has a need, we can act quickly. You know, earlier this year, we had a pastor, one of our pastors who's been with us for a couple of years, was really going through a difficult time. And the pastor shared this. And I mean, we literally cried together on one of the coaching calls where they were sharing with us what was going on in their life. They've just been attacked at every stand. Felt like, man, look, I've reached my limit. I don't know if I can go on. I don't know if I can do it. Within 30 days, we had planned for some of our pastors in our program on their own dime to go up and to preach at their church for a month. We said, we're going to give you a month off. We want you to be there and be present, but we're going to preach for you for a month. And we're going to come in and we're going to pour into your people and pour into your congregation. That same pastor a month ago was sharing with us about how their church has about doubled in size since that time. Right? And God came in, and the Holy Spirit is doing the work. But a huge part of it was that we went up to undergird it. We didn't have to have a whole bunch of conversations. I literally said on the call, hey, look, if you're on this call and you're willing to help and you're willing to go up, let me know. I said, we're all going to go up. You got to get a flight. You got to get a hotel. You got to stay. I want you to do something with their team. So preach, but also do something with their team. We're going to coordinate. We're going to do a series together. We're going to walk through. If you're willing to be a part of it, let me know if these dates work for you. We're going to work them out. And if you need some help, even on getting your plane ticket and stuff like that, let me know and we'll help you go, because we want to provide support. And I would like to believe we would do that for all of our pastors, right? But that's because we got agility. We didn't have to go to a board and say, man, who can we send? Well, this person can preach good, but they ain't been around long enough. We need to watch them a little longer. And, with this person, he been around, man, we owe him a shot. So we need to send him out. And we ain't have to do none of that. We just literally say it live on the call, no private conversation. Hey, this one of our brothers and sisters need help. Who can go help? Let's go. All right. And that's what we did. And so that's going to be one of the benefits. All right. So let me ask you this question before I go to my next thing. What's one benefit, right? If you were joining a relational network, what's one benefit you would like to see? What's something you would like to see that would be a blessing to your life, right? Whether that's one-on-one attention or time, spent, that's not church stuff. What's one thing you would like to see if you were joining a relational network? Let me know. All right. Let me know as I go to the next thing. Just drop it in the chat. What's one thing you would like to see for a relational network? All right. Now, because I like to be balanced, let me tell you what you got to watch out for. I think as we move into relational networks, there are always dangers. There are always, whenever there's innovation, there needs to be safeguards. There needs to be something that makes sure that nothing goes too far. And I want to talk about that. I want to deal with that really quickly, because we have seen several networks and fellowships popping up. But there are some issues that I see that we've got to be careful about, right? Because one thing that denominations do provide us, they provide us longevity of structure, and their complexity does help to weed out some of the things that won't last and stand the test of time. So that I do appreciate about our long-term denominations. But let's talk about what we've got to watch out for as we build this thing going forward. All right. Number one, we've got to watch out for an unhealthy dependency on one leader's personality. This is always a red flag for me. If the entire network is built solely on the personality and the voice of one person, that's a red flag. That's a red flag for me, because we're going back into the same broken model. That only scales so far, right? And let's be honest, you only have the capacity maybe to pastor. Let's say you have the capacity to pastor 10 pastors. Well, when pastor number 11 shows up, you're not going to say no. You're not going to say no to the notoriety and the fame and the growth that comes with having 100 pastors. You're not going to say no to it. And if you're not going to say no to it and you don't have the capacity for it, you're setting it up to fail. And so I think it's unhealthy to build everything around one person. I think in the future, relational networks, that while they may have a leader who's at the top, it's going to be clear that that leader has a team around them. It's going to be clear that that leader is surrounded by specialists who can help solve specialized problems. I think that's what the future is going to look like. I think that's going to be a huge key to the future. One of the reasons we haven't fully launched our denominational or our relational network, rather, is because we're still in conversation about all this team of different leaders who fit where we're headed and where we're going. All right. Number two, here's another thing you got to watch out for. Watch out for places where there's no accountability. If one person can do whatever they want to do without any checks and balances, it's dangerous. And the reason it's dangerous is because I don't care how anointed you are, we are all human. We're all human. And you're prone to make mistakes. Like, you're prone to make mistakes. You're prone to do things wrong. And so if you could just do what you want to do and nobody can check you and nobody can talk to you and nobody can tell you this and the other, you're setting yourself up for a world of hurt, my brother. And so it is not the thing. It is not the thing. You have got to make sure that there's accountability. All right. Number three, you got to watch out for abuse of authority, especially in apostolic circles. Man, apostolic and prophetic people are terrorists. They can be terrorists. And their weapon of mass destruction is God told me. Hear me. Apostolic and prophetic people can be terrorists, and their weapon of choice is God told me. And if you're not careful, you will abuse your authority walking down that line. If you're not careful, you will abuse your authority walking down that line. There's a fine line. I think there are places absolutely where God speaks to leadership and we've got to go. But I always watch how much and how often a leader has to lean on that. I always watch it, because the more you have to lean on that, it's a sign that you're not walking in the relational authority and the positional authority that God is giving you. Right? Because when people trust you, you don't have to go to that extreme. Your yes can be yes and your no can be no. You can say, hey, I really feel like this is the area I'm being led. And I also want you to pray about it and tell me what God says to you. Man, that's one of the secrets to getting momentum, is that when it goes from being your vision to being our vision, when you give us a chance to hear it from the Lord too, everything changes. All right. I'm not going to get in trouble with y'all, Pastor Moore, so I'm going to keep going. I'm not going to get in trouble with y'all on that one. So I'm going to keep going. Let me get this last one, then we'll go back and look at some of your comments. Is watch out for networks and fellowships that claim to be relational, but really their relational claim is a cover-up for disorganization. All right. So here's what's important. Here's what's important. If you're not careful, I see this all the time with people who call themselves organic. We're in an organic fellowship and network. And what they end up sometimes being is being chaotic. They end up being chaotic, and there's no structure, and there's no direction, and there's no anything, and that's not there. You know, a healthy network, I believe, needs to be covenant and clarity. It needs to be covenant and clarity. All right, so let me go back and look at some of you. I asked what you want to see from a network and what you want to see. All right, I see like minds with adaptability and accountability. That's good. I think that's a good one. We want to be around people who think like us. That's important. We want to be around people who provide accountability. That's important. We need that. We need that. And I think that's important. I think when it comes to relational networks, mothers and fathers are important, but sisters and brothers are equally as important. We need that. So for example, coming up, what's today? Wednesday. So tomorrow we do our coaching call with all of our pastors and their teams every Thursday night. And so, well, this is my first time saying this, so y'all don't even know this yet. I'm about to send an email for this in a little bit. But tomorrow night, we've got a guest presenter, one of our pastors who's been in our program for about 3 months. But they have a church that is under 50. But they might be the most financially healthy church I've spoken to in the last 4 years in terms of property they own, money in the bank, the whole nine. And so I've been talking to that pastor about it. And so they're going to come on and they're going to be presenting and they're going to be sharing how they built this stockpile so that right now, every time God brings an opportunity, they can jump on it and they can go. And they've got the liquid resources to do it. And pastor is going to be sharing that, right? And so, but that's a part of that like-mindedness, right? It's a part of that. I'm like, hey, look, I know for a fact there's some other churches. We've got some other pastors in our program who need to hear this. While finances are tight on somebody, you have found a strategy. You have found a vein that you live in where you manage your money in such a way that it makes a difference. And so we're going to be sharing it. She's going to be sharing it on the coaching call. So again, that's a part of that. All right. So that's really good. Pastor Joe said, really wrestling with that right now, being alone, needing to make these shifts as a co-pastor, ready to run, but you got to stay in your lane. I'm praying for God to speak to lead pastor. Am I wrong? Absolutely. You're not wrong. And I'm going to say this to you, Pastor Joe. I feel like you all fit perfectly in what we do and in who we are, because I feel like just some of the interactions that we've had over the last, 3 years now, just in different ways, I can see who you all are and where you all are headed. But you have to just, like you said, you got to pull that trigger. It's like, you know what? We got to get into it. I got to do it, but I got to trust the lead. And here's always been my rule of thumb when I've sat in the second chair, and even as I sit in a type of second chair, even now, is one of the things I pray is that I share what I can share. I try to be clear. So let me give y'all a hack real quick. All right. So if you're a support leader, let me give you a hack on really being able to communicate effectively for change when you're dealing with your senior leader. It's a really simple hack. Put it on paper. Put everything on paper in great detail, right? That sounds simple, but here's what I do. Whenever I hear something from the Lord, right, I'm often waiting to hear something from our senior leader. So here's what I do. I take what our senior leader said, right? They give us words. They say, man, I really feel like God wants to blah, 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 right? And I take what I've heard from the Lord and I reframe it in the words that they use, and I reframe it on paper so I can present and say, hey, look, here's something I was tripping on. Here's something I was thinking about. Like, I wanted to share this with you. If you're good with it, I'm willing to run with it. And here's what I'm thinking. And on that paper is what they said, what I'm thinking about, step by step, boom, boom, boom. Right? Maybe if y'all remind me in the future, I'll share with you like an example document. I'll take some of the details out, but I'll share with you an example document for how I share that and what I put out. But I put as much detail as possible to be clear that I thought all the way through it. Pastors get bombarded with people who have ideas but no follow through. And so putting stuff on paper really, really, really helps. But you do, and then after I do that, then from there, of course, I'm praying and I'm trusting that God will really open up their eyes and bring them closer into what I believe the Lord wants us to do, right? And here's the other thing. I hate this, but this is true. Some leaders don't move until where they are hurts enough. Some leaders have to hurt enough for them to decide to move. And we got to walk through that. All right. So we got to do that. All right. So I want you to think about that. All right. So let me go here. I want to close out with this last piece because I do have something that's going to help you all too that I think will be good for you. I'm going to share here in just a second. All right. So if you're thinking about this, or if you lead a denomination or whatever it is, let's talk about how to transition. A couple of things you want to do. If you're dealing with this yourself as an individual, a couple of things I want to encourage you to do. Number one, I want you to evaluate where you are right now. Is where you are helping you or hindering you? And I want you to be honest. I want you to be honest. Like, just tell the truth. Is where you are hurting you or is it hindering you? That's not dishonorable. That's honest. Be honest. All right. And then after you do that, now I want you to start praying about and looking around for the people who you believe could pour into you. Right now, I'll be honest with you. Man, for years, I'm talking about decades, one of the things I wanted most in this life was for Bishop T.D. Jakes to be my covering and spiritual father. Oh, man, you don't even understand. Oh, my goodness, you don't even understand. Like, I wanted it. Like, I was like, man, that's it. That's the man of God. And then the closer I got to it, I got into a mentorship program and all these. The closer I got to it, the more I realized I can admire him and I could learn from some of the things that he has done. But Bishop Jakes can't answer my phone call in the middle of the night when me and my wife in a fight. No, he can't do that. I can't call him talking about, hey man, my children's ministry leader, was sleeping with one of my deacons. What do I do, man? Do I kick both of them out of church? Do I counsel them back? What do I do? Like, I couldn't call him for that, right? And so what I realized is that I needed somebody who was going to be closer and who can read. And so I need you to get this. It is okay to make a wise choice when choosing covenant and covering. I think sometimes we put all of that on God, but I think it's just like marriage. God lets us marry who we want to marry, but he does govern how we treat the one we marry. And so I think the same thing with covering is that you can choose. You can look at them and say, man, are they on a path I want to be on? Do I believe that they have the capacity to walk with us? Am I willing to be honest with them? Right? Is this somebody I can go talk to about my marriage? Like, you can make a choice. So you need to start searching and saying, who and what do I need in this season? And keep in mind, you can have mentors for a bunch of different things, right? But you've got to figure out what it is you're looking for. Number 3, start collaborating locally. I encourage you to do that. Start some local collaborations. Call some local pastors and take them to lunch. Just say, hey, man, I know you're a pastor in the area. I'm a pastor in the area. I would love to take you to lunch. I just want to connect. Start building relationships. Start building some local relationships. Number 4, this is not on screen, but focus on mission and not just titles. There's a disturbing rise of people who are running to fellowships on the promise of a title and a role. There's a disturbing rise of people who are walking into fellowships with no connection, right? But the only reason is for a title that doesn't really carry any weight. Now, let me be clear. There are 2 parts of this conversation. There's one part of this conversation where an established network or denomination is being intentional about reaching out to you and saying, hey, look, we want you to come in. We believe, you could be a great part of what we're doing. We know you've been doing this, that, the other, and they're inviting you in. And yes, maybe a part of that is some kind of leadership role. But the main thing is we want you to help us affect change. I'm seeing people going in where you're not being asked to affect change because the denomination or the fellowship is not making any change, but you're being promised. And so now you've got 5 people in a room who don't have 5 people in their churches between them, who play dress up and come in and call themselves having a convocation in somebody's living room. Now, I'm not saying it to be funny. I'm just saying that to say sometimes we go too far, y'all. We going too far. Why you got on a miter? Why you got all this stuff on? Like, why you doing all of that? And we ain't even established a single leadership team. We haven't made a single disciple. And we caught up on, all right, let me see, y'all get me stirred up. Let me get back to what I'm supposed to be talking about. All I'm saying is we got to stop focusing on titles and we got to focus on what we came here to do. Number 5 is make sure you are looking at the structure of what you're joining. Look at the structure of what you're joining. All right, let me go. I already know my wife gonna watch this and she gonna fuss at me because y'all done got me on my soapbox today. Y'all done got me on my soapbox. All right, so let me come back here. Look at this. Pastor Moore said we want a common mindset. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I love it. We got to have a common mindset. Look, Pastor Joe, we ready for you. We ready for you. We waiting on you. Like, you've been close, and I know you have seen so many of our things. And I see your name come through from time to time, grabbing different resources and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I cannot wait till I can be like, hey, I'm coming to Jonesboro. Like, come on, I'm coming down. And I'll just look. I'll go see my daughter at Grambling and just swing right on through Jonesboro. I cannot wait. I'm looking forward to it. All right. So I need y'all to get this. Look at this. Here's my charge to you, man. Is I want you to understand that the denominational era, as we have known it, is closing, and relational apostolic networks are rising. And what God is doing is that He's weaving together leaders in churches who walk the same way as it relates to covenant with the spirit and mission. All right. And so we've got to lock into that. We've got to lock into that. We've got to move into that. We've got to go into what God is calling us to do. All right. So let me close out here. Let me give you a couple things. There are a couple of things I've been talking about. We are getting ready to go hot and heavy on this. So I need you to plug in right now. I'm serious. When I give you this, I need you to make sure you jump on it. Don't delay, because it's about to go through a shift. All right. So for those of you who have been walking with us for a little while, I started talking to you about the Underdog Conference a few months ago. Well, we're getting ready to roll out our new website, and it's almost done being built. And once our new website is done, then we're going to also see a change. We're shifting from our early bird pricing, and we're getting ready to go to our new pricing structure, which is going to be different. And so we've got some things available for the Underdog Conference right now that will not be available once we go through the shift. So I'm telling you right now, if you want to jump on it, go and grab it. You can register right now at theunderdogconference.com. Coming up in October, I'm going to be doing a 3-day virtual conference, And every year, for those of you who don't know, every year we go to Destin, Florida. This year we'll be going to Gulf Shores, Alabama. But we go and we have a retreat with a group of pastors who are in our program. We typically only have space for about 7 couples, including my wife and myself. And we go and we stay in $1 million beach house, and we eat together, we cook together, we go walk on the beach, excursions together. But the whole purpose of what we do, we rest for 3 days, and then we work for 3 days. And the 3 work days are so every pastor leaves with a 12-month plan, for their church. Every pastor leaves with it. And so this year, what we decided, because the year before I did 2 weeks so we could handle more couples, and it about wore us out. And I was like, I can't do 2 weeks again. I can only do 1 week. And so the first 7 who get in, that's who can come. And so the house filled up very quickly. So that's full, it's sold out. But we decided to take it virtual. And so this year we're going to be doing a virtual version. And so this is what I'm saying to you. To those of you who are going to plug into the Underdog Conference, I'm saying to you that I want you to go ahead and not only get yourself registered, but send the link to your teams and have your people registered. I'm talking about have your congregation register, have your leaders register, have everybody who's connected to your church. Go right now to the underdogconference.com and to go and get registered. You will see right now we've got a full schedule, and that schedule is completely changing. Y'all, I just got confirmation from some dope creators. Like, listen, this conference is for all the Davids in ministry and marketplace, because some of you walk in both, some of you walk in one or the other. Whichever one you walk in, I've got people coming in to teach you. I've got people coming in to teach on social media. I've got people coming in to teach on branding. I've got people to come in and talk about finance and funding your vision. We've got people coming in for all these different topics. And y'all, I'm so fired up. I'm so amped because listen, we are bringing kingdom creators, right? I didn't want to do a conference that just keeps platforming the same preachers that we see all the time, everywhere. Everybody conference got the same people. I didn't want to do that. What I wanted to do is I wanted to go and get Christian creators and Christian leaders, some who are operating in ministry, some who are operating in the marketplace, who are in all these different spaces. And I wanted to bring them in and say, look, come tell us how you did it. Come tell us how you're leading a church that's growing and you got a business that's making $1 million a year. Come tell us how you got stuff going out on social media every day, every week, and you're killing it. Come tell us. And we're going to be doing all of that at the Underdog. So listen, all of our pastors who are in our programs, you get a free VIP ticket to the Underdog Conference. But this schedule, I'm telling you right now, is about to change. The schedule itself is going to be the same, but the content is going to be different. And so we're going to be laying it out. But look at this right now. Our ticket is our Underdog access ticket is just $49. I'm telling y'all right now, it is about to change. It is about to shift because look, I've been holding on, keeping us at the super early bird price. It is about to shift, and our Underdog access is going to be $79, and then everything else is also going to increase in price, all right? Because if you notice, our Underdog Plus is where you can come live and you get all the replays and the workbook that we're going to put together. I'm going to give you a template for planning your whole year. I'm going to give you the template so that you can plan your whole year. And what y'all don't know is I'm creating Underdog GPT. And so I'm creating a GPT where you're going to be able to plug in some of your details, and it's going to run you your whole year just like that. So you're going to be able to get that when you register at the Plus level. And for the Underdog Elite, That is our VIP level. There are only 10 of those that we started with, only 10 of those. So I think we're down to maybe 5 left. I need to update that. And so with that one, I'm going to do a call with you after the conference. I'm going to do a 45-minute call with you, and I'm going to actually help you build your 12-month plan, right? Like literally, we're going to be on a Zoom call together, me and you and your team and whoever else you want to come. But I'm going to get on that call with you, and I'm going to help you build your plan. And again, I'm not doing that for everybody because that takes a lot. And I'm going to sit there, and you're going to have stuff you're going to send me, and I'm going to walk you through it with you. And I'm going to make sure you have a clear plan, give you a PDF and a workbook that you can take back to your team. I'm going to give you the same thing that we give our pastors on site. All right. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to have a vault of resources and videos as well that I'm going to give to you that you're going to be able to have to train your team throughout the year. But that's going to go away. So listen, if you want to be a part of it, go now to the underdogconference.com. As a matter of fact, if you plan to register for the conference, let me know in the chat. Just let me know. Say, hey, look, I'm coming through. I'm coming through. Pastor Paula, I'm so sorry. There is no more room at the end in person. All right. But what I will do is I always, when we do the retreat in October, the people who are on site, I always give them first dibs while we're there to go ahead and register for next year. And typically probably about 75% of them go ahead and register. But if they don't, the first thing I do is I come back and I email our members and say, hey, look, if you want to do it. So this year, I'm going to do a waiting list. And when I do the waiting list, you will be able to plug in, plug on, and you'll be able to let me know. And probably next year, we'll probably do 2 houses. And so we'll take it to the next step. All right. But listen, go ahead and get your spot, and let's do it. Okay. Pastor Joe said, I'm going to register. All right. I look forward to it, man. Thank you so much. Pastor Paul, I see you. She's coming. She said, I'm going to register. Listen, I want you to register and just click that link and send it to your team. Go ahead and have them register, because we are going to cap it, because for Plus and for Elite, one of the things that we're going to be doing is on that Saturday. I don't believe it's listed on there. Let me see. There it is. On that Saturday, we're going to have a bonus session. And so I'm going to choose a crop of our speakers. And I know I will be there myself. And we're going to choose some speakers. And we're going to do a live Zoom session, because this won't be hosted in Zoom. We've got a brand new platform that we're rolling out where you'll literally have this library where you can go in and you can visit and log into different sessions and see it. It's going to be super dope. All right. But for that Saturday, we're going to do a live session. All right. And so one of the things that we're going to do is that we're going to get into this, and we're going to start answering your real questions. But that's only for the Plus or the Underdog Plus and the Underdog Elite. All right. So go ahead and register. Go ahead and get your spot, because I want to walk with you. You want help. You want next year to be different. If you want next year to be different, you got to do something different. So go and register for the Underdog Conference, and I will look forward to seeing you there. Man, we are believing God big. We're believing God that all of our pastors are going to be present, but that all of our pastors are going to bring their teams. So if you're on here, you got a team, I want you to tell them right now, hey, look, go ahead and register for this conference and get plugged in, because when they register, especially at tier 2 or 3, they're going to have access to the replays. And so you'll be able to use our resource vault that's going to have over 30 resources. You can use it as your leadership team material for a year. If you meet with your team every week, you will have more than 30 weeks worth of material that you can say, all right, this week we're watching this. This week we're watching this. I want you to watch it. We're going to talk about it. Watch this. We're going to talk about it when we get together. We're putting it all in your hands, and we're going all out to give you what you need. All right. So listen, I appreciate you all. Thank y'all so much. Before we close, let me pray over you. Let me pray for you, man. I believe that God is truly going to continue to work in you and do things through you. But I want to come alongside you and help and serve you in whatever way I can. And so if there is a way we can serve you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Let us know. DM us. Man, we're here for you. Anybody who knows us will tell you, man, look, we're just one message away. We're just one message away. All you got to do is text. All you got to do is call, because I know what it feels like to be out there by yourself, wanting to do right, wanting to move forward, and not having the support you need. And so for us, yes, we are a business, but we are in the business of kingdom. Kingdom comes first. We're a kingdom business. And so kingdom controls how we do business. And so we want to be kingdom. And so we want to be here for you, and we want to help you however we can. So if you need some support, please don't hesitate to reach out. Let's pray. Father, I thank you for every person who is listening and watching now. I pray, God, that right where they are, you would meet them. I pray for those who feel alone. I pray for those who feel isolated. I pray for those underdogs who feel overlooked. I pray, God, that wherever they are, that they would realize that there is purpose in the moment that they're in, that God, you have a reason for everything that we go through. And even if it's not something that you caused, you have said in your word that you have the ability to cause all things to work together for the good of those that love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. So God, you take tough situations and you make you make something good come out of them. And so, Father, I pray that something good is coming out of this. And so I pray that none of these leaders would walk alone. Guide them to the community that they need, God, in order to grow forward and to grow directly into where you have called them to go. God, I thank you that what you are doing now is just the beginning of what you're going to do in the future. Have your way in us as we move forward. God, help us become what the church needs, what the body needs, what the kingdom needs, that we might continue to see your kingdom take new territory for your glory. God, we love you and we honor you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, listen, thank y'all for joining me on a Wednesday and popping in. I so appreciate y'all. I thank God for you. And I look forward to seeing you again as we get ready for the next episode of Apostolic Insight. All right, take a moment, share this with somebody. Don't forget to register for the Underdog Conference, and I'll look forward to seeing you on the other side. All right, God bless you. Peace.